Gonna go live. All right, we're mostly good. I see a lot of people have arrived. Maybe give everybody just another few seconds to show up, and we'll get right into it. Big shout outs to everyone here, especially Rose Jade, for having come up with this idea and set it all up. All right, that's working good. Everything coming in loud and clear. Yeah, so what are we up to today? It's the big Blender Clone.Tools 2.0 tutorial. Perfectly timed, I may add, because, well, if you saw the big update yesterday, Artifact launched their new creators website and released Clone.Tools 2.0 as well as a bunch of other content, the VRM converter, but we're not getting into all the technicals. We're not going to get to the new Artifact creators today. We're going to get into, well, first time Blender, Clone.Tools. If you've never used Blender before, you never used Clone.Tools before, you haven't even downloaded your 3D files before, well, guess what? This is going to be a great opportunity to learn how to do all that. So this is going to be definitely more on the basic side. I am by no means a Blender expert, but I do think I can competently show you guys around. So welcome. I see a few more people showing up. Big shout outs. Yeah, so this is, of course, organized by the Queens of CloneX, presented by yours truly. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. And if you, you're not obligated by any means to try to keep up or, try to do this live along with me, it might be better just to kind of sit back and observe, because this whole thing is going to be recorded and backed up to YouTube. I'll add timestamps to it as well, so it'll kind of be easy to review it later. So if you just want to hang tight and watch along. So today we'll be, of course, doing setup, which involves downloading your 3D files from artifact.com. I'll show you how to do that. Show you how to download Blender itself from blender.org, and going to download Clone.Tools from the snazzy new creators.artifact.com website. Big shout outs to everyone here. I'm just going to log into my ledger real quick and show you guys how to snag your 3D files from the website. All right, here we go. All right, so let's begin. Going to go to creators.artifact.com. If you go to Clone.Tools, if you guys remember the old Clone.Tools site, it now redirects you here to Artifact Creators as well. So do go to creators.artifact.com. Always use official links. You can find official links in the Discord, of course. Anyhow, so let's go over here to build Clone.Tools. You see there's a Clone.Tools download here. I'm just going to click download. It takes you to this folder here. And what I do is I download Clone.Tools directly from here. I'm going to right click it and hit download. Here we go. And now I'm going to create a new folder, and I got one here called 3D. So we're going to create a new folder. I call it 3D, and I'm going to drop clonetools.zip in here, hit save. All right, so we have Clone.Tools plugin installed. You can download Blender right here from this folder. If you right click and download this, you can get Blender 3.2 here. Many people might find this convenient. So I'm going to go ahead and download this blender.zip as well. Finally, I'm not sure if we're going to need the animation packs right now, but why not? Let's dump all of these available files into our little 3D folder here. All right, wonderful. So this covers pretty much the downloads we'll need today from artifact.com in terms of Clone.Tools. If you need to get Blender, it's available at blender.org. If you Google Blender, be careful. A lot of the recommended sponsored links at the top, those can be like fake at times. So make sure you go directly to blender.org. But in this case, well, we downloaded Blender 3.2 from this Dropbox here. So it only leaves one more thing, and that's going to be the CloneX files. If you've never done this before, you go to CloneX.RTFKT.com. Again, always use kind of official links. Go to RTFKT.com and go to the CloneX section. The link is CloneX.RTFKT.com. And we go to My Inventory here on the home page. This is my wallet. You just click on it to go to your inventory. And then you see it pulls up the clones in your wallet. So let's work with this one today. You click View here. And we move along to this 3D Files tab. You see this tab here in the middle. You click that. And you click the Request Files. This will pop up a signature request. In this case, I'm feeling very safe and confident that, in signing this. I'm just going to hit Sign. Show you guys how this next part works. All right, I've signed this message with my ledger, and check this out. My clone files have now populated here. You hit download, and you'll notice that the files start popping up to download. I'm just going to hit save on each one of them. This is a couple gigs, so this might take a few minutes to download. So one by one, I'm going to get about 14 prompts here. And now that should be all of them. So
hey, Prez,
what's up?
if we have any questions we wanted to maybe type out in chat, is there a channel for that?
Not formally, but I don't know, maybe someone just maybe drop them in the holders chat for now.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Or just kind of keep them in mind. Toward the end, I'll loop back and I'll answer any questions. If there's something super pertinent, don't feel free to speak up. But
sorry, Prez. Under if you just hover over Gaming Voice, you'll see a little open chat box.
Right.
Add it in there.
That's right. Discord has that sub chat now. Yes, that's right. There's this thing in Gaming Voice now. Let me show you guys. If you're watching my screen, it's somewhere here. Yep, there's this little chat icon that's specific to this video here. You can't miss it. It's up here, chat icon. Drop them in there. I'll review those. All right, back to downloading 3D files. Now here's a critical pro tip. A lot of people make this mistake. Happens all the time. Note that there's 14 files, right? These are the list of the 14. But often, after hitting download all, you will find that not all 14 came through. So it's recommended that you kind of give them a count, right? So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I got 14 here, okay? A lot of the time, one of them could be missing. So you can just kind of quickly go over it again. You can see there's a hair, there's clothing. I got the hair one here. I've got the clothing here. So do make sure that the 14 add up to the 14 traits or files here. Okay, guys? That is very helpful. A lot of times, not all 14 come through on the first download. You try to open your files and there's an error. This is usually the issue. So just make sure all 14 come through. All right. This first part of the tutorial is done, guys. Setup is pretty much complete. We've downloaded the 3D files from RTFKT.com. We downloaded Blender as well, and we have the Clone.Tools plugin as well. I'm going to head over to this folder with all this 3D stuff in it. Here's the Blender 3.2, so I'm just going to extract that here. So I'm extracting Blender. You can also download like an installable version of Blender, but in this case, we just got this really convenient, easy to use folder. All right. With my Blender extracted, you see there's this Blender.exe here. We're going to open Blender for the very first time. And the first thing we're going to do with Blender opened is install, well, the Clone.Tools plugin, right? So on the top left, you go to Edit, you go to Preferences, and there's a tab here called Add-ons. You go to the Add-ons tab here on the left, and then there's a button at the top that says Install. So we're going to click Install, and I'm going to navigate over to my 3D folder here that I first established. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go, 3D folder. And within this 3D folder, I dumped Clone.Tools 2.0.zip. I'm going to click that and click Install. Blender will do its thing and install Clone.Tools. All right, I give it a moment. I'm pretty sure it's installed. Now what you have to do is go to this community tab in the center, click this enabled add-ons only, or actually maybe that's not necessary, but if you go down this list, you will see this Clone.Tools, right? We just installed it. Notice that it's checkmarked. Make sure that it's checkmarked. If you install Clone.Tools and for some reason none of this is working, it's probably because this still needs to be checked. So Clone.Tools has been installed. Blender and Clone.Tools are pretty much ready to go. This is flying along pretty smoothly. All right, Clone.Tools installed, Blender's open. You press N on your keyboard, N for November, and it pops up this convenient side menu window thing here. You see this? Within this field, you'll see there's a tab called Clone.Tools. Okay, because now we've installed Clone.Tools, this Clone.Tools tab now appears within this menu. All right. This is where a majority of the magic will happen. Most of the controls and activity we do is going to be within this small menu here. Clone.Tools by artifact. First, we begin by choosing whether or not you're importing a male or female model. Every clone comes with both, right? So, you know, my clone is kind of a male, but if I wanted to, there's female kind of components bundled into your 3D files. But generally, you kind of pick the one that is normally suitable for your clone. In my case, it's going to be male, and you click this Open 3D Files button here. And once again, we have to navigate over to our 3D folder where we downloaded all those traits. And you can see this is the folder. So I'm just going to hit Select Location. It's going to detect all of the clone files in there and proceed to load them in. You just got to give it a minute to do its thing here. All right. As you can see, Clone.Tools magic has taken place. It's taken all the files and built us a clone ready to go. Pretty smooth, right, guys? Just a couple clicks to we're already here. All right, so once again, we're going to keep our focus on this side menu here for Clone.Tools, and we're just going to go through it tab by tab. Now, like I stated earlier, this first pass through is going to be like the most simple, basic way to get through all this. I will not cover every detail in here on the first go. I'm going to come back to this about when we do our second clone render. I'm going to go into each one of these tabs in more depth, but I will not overwhelm you guys with too much detail on the first pass. So if you see me skipping things, don't worry, I'll come back to them for part 2. Let's begin with the first one called Style. Style is where you'll find all your traits. The only thing of relevance here for a beginner is the fact that clones come with 3 pairs of pants available to them. They have leggings, oversized joggers, and more of these slim fit joggers. Generally, you don't need all 3 of them attached to your clone at once, so there's usually a process of removing at least 2 of them. I'm not going to use the leggings on mine. I prefer the oversized joggers, so I'm going to remove these slim ones, which will leave only 1 pair of pants on the clone, which is perfect. If you want to do something like, for instance, remove a top on the clone or other traits, you can kind of do it from this menu here. But for simplicity's sake, guys, just go to Style and remove the 2 unwanted pants from your clone. All right, that concludes Style. Let's continue to the next tab. It's Pose and Animate. Now, for simplicity's sake, we're just going to work with very basic, simple poses today. In this Pose tab, we have Pose selected, and go to Current File here. From this drop-down, we can select Male Poses. This will populate a list of poses down here, as you can see, and you can kind of click them individually to kind of take a look at each and every pose available to you. These are all the default poses packed in by Clone.Tools. Beb did a lot of work to get all these in here. Very convenient to have some cool poses ready to go. All right, so I'm going to settle on one of these poses relatively soon. We've got this one. We've got the jumping classic one. We've got some good ones here. All right, how about this lie down pose? We'll work with that. With our pose selected, we're going to collapse the pose and animate tab and proceed to the next tab. Let's open up the camera tab. Camera tab is where I think you guys will spend a lot of your time. This is where you're really going to set up and frame the shot. I'm not going to get into excessive detail here, but check this out. These first three move the camera, right? So in this default state, what you're previewing here on the left, right, this frame here, this is the picture, this is the camera and the viewfinder, and this is what it's going to photograph. So I'm going to drag these three XYZ coordinates to kind of position my clone in a slightly better. So this one will tilt it like so. So you can see I'm kind of filling out the frame pretty well. All right, let's say we go down toward now the lens shift. Okay, if we're not perfectly centered, we can drag this one to kind of move the frame more toward the center. This one will drag him up and down. But he's pretty much perfectly centered. And finally, this focal length kind of acts like a zoom. Looks good, right? That's all there is to it. He's already framed up for a widescreen shot. That's how camera works. Some basic camera back and forth. You can really line it up the way you like. Camera is done. Let's collapse the camera tab and proceed to environment. All right, environment has two sub-tabs of its own, lighting and staging. Let's start with the lighting. This is what will really dictate, I guess, the look and the style of your shot. Is all of these different lighting models available. What I like to do is I like to scroll down to the very bottom, and I like to disable default lighting. This will suddenly, black out the screen, but don't worry. And then I go back to the top, and I start going light by light. So I'll turn on crossing lights, give it a look. Do I like the look of that? I'll turn it off, and I'll go to the next one, day to night. Looks like this. And I'll do this. I'll go through the whole list individually, turning on the lights, kind of figuring out what look I like. You can also combine lights. So for instance, this on the spot that I have on right now is kind of dark. Maybe combining it together with purple haze will give it the right look. So you can see multiple lights can stack on top of each other to give it a look. But generally you don't want to use too many lights, guys. 1 or 2, 3 at most is generally what I find necessary to kind of light a scene. But yeah, you kind of go through the light list, you find the light you like. Let's just settle on one in particular here. I'm going to go to clear day, and our lighting is complete. All right, so the lighting is chosen, the shot's framed up. I'm not going to get into staging on this first pass because I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible on the first go around. So lighting. The lighting lesson is complete. Let's collapse the environment tab and head over to the final step. Yes, we're getting really, really close. So I'm not going to get into too much detail into what these settings do, because again, I'm going to leave it for later. Really what I want to do is I want to prepare to export right now. And that's what we're going to do. All you got to do is hit the render image. Okay, and you see that there's been a picture rendered. Right? The frame that we lined up using camera is pretty much exactly how your shot is taken. And all I got to do to save this image, this render now, is go to Image, Save As. I'm going to go to that 3D folder that I'm using for all of this work. And I'm just going to make this image idub render0.png. So you just title it and maybe a little number. You're going to make a lot of these. Over here, you can use pretty much the default settings are perfectly adequate. I really wouldn't tweak anything here. So for simplicity, we're just going to save it with the default settings. And there you have it. The first render is in the bag. It was super simple. I'm going to go over to my render folder, and you'll notice the rendered images here. How about that? It is done and rendered. I'd say that was pretty simple, huh? Well, don't worry, we're going to go over it again because I'm going to do this for a second time. That was the basic overview, guys. We basically opened Blender. I installed Clone.Tools. I started Clone.Tools. I opened the 3D files. And, well, we did the basics. We kind of lined up the camera. We set a pose. We set the lighting, and then we hit the export render button. all relatively simple. As you can see, Clone.Tools really is great for, well, taking your 3D files and making them this pliable model in front of you to toy with. But guys, we're gonna now proceed to the second pass. So let me go take a quick look over here. I must mute Mr. J. I see you. I'm gonna mute you, big guy. Nothing personal. Just want to kind of quiet it down over here. Let's proceed. All right. So now we're going to get into the advanced component of this whole lesson for you guys. Same thing. We're going to open 3D files, but this time I'm going to go a little further into depth into what I think kind of a new user should be aware of, right? So let's see here. What do I have on my list? We're going to get into more advanced camera settings. Let's see. Advanced poses. I'm going to get into a little more detail into setting up poses, articulating them. Advanced light settings. I'm going to teach you guys a few more tricks into lighting. We're going to add an Animus Egg to the scene, right? Because your clone can be a little lonely on screen. I'll show you how to add new assets to the scene. That's going to make your things more exciting. You're going to be able to do so much with just the basic import lesson. Advanced render settings. Yeah, I'm going to go into more detail on how to make the renders look a little different or cooler. I'll show you that. Texture fixes. There's some stuff that almost everybody runs into when it comes to textures. I'm going to quickly show you how to fix that. Emissive. I'm going to show you guys a little something about emissive and how to install content packs. Okay, I'm just kind of reviewing this for my own sake. Let's get into it. All right, I'm going to close Blender and we'll run this back right from the beginning. Just to kind of refresh everybody, get everybody back on the same page. So once again, I'm going to open my Blender to 3.2. I'm going to open Blender.exe. Clone.Tools is installed, right? Last time we opened this, we went to Edit, Preferences, and we installed the Clone.Tools add-on, but it's already installed. So all I have to do now is press N for November on your keyboard. We'll open this side menu. You'll want to click on Clone.Tools, right? This little Clone.Tools subtab to bring open this thing. And let's do it again. This time, let's do a little different. Let's work with the female model. Okay, so I'm going to click female. I'm going to click Open 3D Files, and I'm going to navigate. Well, let's just assume I have a female downloaded here. What I will do is take you to a female here. All right, here's all my clone files downloaded to this female folder. I'm gonna hit open, and you will see Clone.Tools loads in this female clone. Wonderful. All right, first part of this more advanced lesson, I want to bring your attention to a little more of the menu in the toolbar. Often when you're working in Clone.Tools, you have this default setting here, which is what the camera sees, right? This viewfinder, this squared off section, by default, I demonstrated this with the camera, right, guys? Kind of showed you how the camera worked, right, with the zoom in and out. This framing here is your camera. This is what the image captures and renders. But times you'll want to kind of break away from the camera and work with it freely, and you'll notice that these buttons here kind of help you do that. You can see if I grab this orb here, this tri-positional orb here, 3-axis thing, I can now move my clone around. I can kind of see what my clone is doing from the back. Right now, you can also zoom with your mouse wheel. There's also a magnifying glass here that if you click and hold, it also helps you zoom. When you're doing more detailed work, you may find that you have to, rotate the clone, get a different perspective, and conduct your business. I'm just bringing this to your attention. You're not going to be using this right away, maybe as a beginner. But if you do happen to grab it by mistake or you do some kind of movement on screen, I want to demonstrate this third button here, this toggle camera view. See how this looks like a camera? This will bring you back to your camera view. Kind of, again, to what we're capturing using the render. So if you break away from your camera and you need to get back to it, you can click this. That's what this button here with the camera does. It brings you back to this framed up camera shot. Just kind of important to know when you're just generally working with Blender. And now, that's enough for the toolbar in this section. One other toolbar, I promise this toolbar section is almost complete, is up here. These toggles here, this array of buttons up here is relevant to working with Clone.Tools. By default, it's in this fourth mode. This is the shading view. This is this is the view that has lighting incorporated into it. So you're seeing it. Your preview here is basically what the render is going to capture. This is intensive. Sometimes you don't need the lighting applied. If your computer is not powerful and you have to do a lot of general work, you may not need to have the lighting active while you're working with your clone. This is where this third option comes in. This is what's known as the shading viewport. This one doesn't have any of the lighting applied, and you can see it just runs a little smoother and better. So if your computer is struggling to work with Blender, this third mode, the shading mode, might be more appropriate to work in. The same thing applies for this one. This is an even more basic view. This also makes everything run a little smoother. No texturing, no lighting, no shading, just this raw kind of grayscale look. And then finally, the fourth option is the wireframe. Again, beginners are probably not going to be delving into looking at the wireframe just yet, but I will bring it to your attention in case, well, maybe you click it by accident. But generally speaking, you will find yourself working in these three, number 3 and number 4 modes here, shading and lighting. All right, I think that kind of covers it for the toolbar section. Just to bring your guys' attention to this, I don't want to inundate you with too much stuff. So let's get into the first part of the advanced lesson here, and that's going to be pose, advanced poses. So once again, we're going to go to the pose tab here, and we're going to click on this drop down and choose female poses. Here's a nice list of female poses to choose through. And we're going to settle on one, and I'm going to show you guys a few more things we can do. Yes, I'm going to use this one as a good example, actually. You'll notice me throughout this tutorial often returning to these set of buttons here. This hand, if you click and drag, it kind of moves it around your work screen here, right? So same with the zoom, right? So you guys may be often zooming in and out and using these features. With this pose selected, I'm going to scroll back up to the top, and I'm going to collapse the pose and animate section. Now, what's interesting is when you enter this pose mode, we can do some more interesting things. This is the more advanced lesson, I guess. Here's what we're going to do. So I have pose selected here. So we've just selected the pose. You can click over here. This option here, back to this menu I mentioned earlier, called Toggle X-Ray. Is this what I'm looking for? No, I think I'm looking for this one. Yes, these two in combination with each other. Something called Toggle X-Ray at the very top here. You enable that, and you enable this one called Show Overlays. And look at what is revealed. We have the skeletal structure of your clone is now revealed. You can kind of see where the bones of your clone's body lay. This is going to be very convenient because you will be doing basic articulation. So in this example, I will just kind of change the look of the leg up. So we see that there's this kick here, this kick pose that we're going to work with. And you can notice that I can click on this bone in the body, right? You see I've clicked it. It's now highlighted. We're in pose mode, and there's more tools here on the left. And I'm going to select this rotate tool. You see that here in this toolbar, there's a little something called rotate. When I click this, this rotate tool thing appears over the highlighted bone. And if I, well, you're going to have to experiment, drag and manipulate these. You can choose to click on, these different axes and manipulate the leg. And just like that, the leg pose has dramatically changed. This will take a little bit of nuance in learning how to use and how to properly articulate And this is where the 3D comes in handy, right? You see how I'm kind of rotating around my clone using this axis orb. It lets me kind of make sure that I'm looking at the right angle. And then from said angle, I can, manipulate the bone as I see fit. And you can do this in a few other spots, right? You click the shoulder here, this arm. You get the idea, right? You click the bone, you click the tool you'd like to work with. Generally, it's going to be rotate. You don't really need to. I think rotate will kind of cover most of the pose changes, at least the basic ones you're going to do to your clone. So that covers, I guess, the more advanced poses, guys. I hope I did it justice. This part is a little more complicated, but relatively simple. So just to quickly recap, you're in this pose mode where you're selecting the poses you want to work with. You're going to enable the X-ray mode up here, as well as this overlay mode, which will reveal the skeletal structure of your clone. These bones will appear, at which point you can select the individual bones, and with the rotate tool on the left here selected, I can rotate the bones and kind of articulate and change up the pose. This is one of the ways you'll be able to move the arms around. I won't go into it here, but you can click the individual fingers within the hand, and again, rotate the hand, and you can get them to do, hand piece gestures, that sort of thing. This is something you're going to have to learn on your own, because that's all I can really comment on it here. All right, pose is done. We've adjusted the pose. I've given you a look. I'm going to hide the bones now by disabling this overlay in X-ray mode. And I will now return by pressing the camera in this toolbar here. I'm now going to return to the shot we have framed up. And we're going to continue to the next tab, and that's camera. So once again, this camera, I'm now able to rotate and get a different kind of view of my clone. Right. You see what we're doing here? We've covered this, of course, in the first part, but what I will show you on this second go-around is resolution. Okay, so this section here is going to be relevant to you guys. By default, it's 1920 by 1080, so this is what we call widescreen. But you may want to work in other resolutions. So I'll show you what the difference can be. Let's square this up. So let's make it, let's call it 1080 by 1080. You can see that this frame has now changed. You see how it's gone from a widescreen shot to a square shot? That's what this resolution does. So in this case, we have a more squared up shot. I like the squared up shots for, well, social media like Twitter and such. But for something like, say, Instagram, or say you want to do like a wallpaper featuring your clone, right? Well, your phone is going to have something more like this, like let's call it 3040 by 1440. Well, actually, I did it the wrong way around. 1440 by 3040. You see how this now resembles the portrait layout of a phone? Well, this is the kind of photo we'll be able to now capture. Because of this frame, this portrait framing, we can now rotate our clone more like this. I'm going to zoom in a little closer on the clone and moving the camera around, including this shift option. You can see I've now framed my clone up in this tight portrait shot that if I exported this would make a suitable wallpaper for your phone. Cool. For the sake of this demo though, we're going to work with a simple square shot. We're going to call it 1080 by 1080. And that kind of concludes, I will run into one more thing. In camera, you can get different effects by kind of playing with this, what I call zoom, but it's the focal length. You can do a kind of a cool effect where if you kind of zoom way out, right, but then you move your clone in much closer, you get a different field of view. You get like well, all I can describe it as an aperture if you're into photography, or field of view effect. So do try that, guys. Once you're getting a little further into these Clone.Tools tutorials, try playing with like cool positions where either you zoom in much closer and then pull the clone out, or pull the clone in and zoom way out. You'll find that the camera can do cool lens effects this way. Again, a little more advanced trick, but so be it. Let's conclude our work here in this tab. So I'm just going to frame up the shot and leave the camera section. All right, that concludes advanced camera. Let's get into advanced environment. How do I want to get? All right, let's cover this this look. You'll notice that there's this contrast setting right below all the lights available to you. I generally like to work with medium contrast, but you can get a cool effect by upping the contrast. You can go to this very high contrast look. Just something to experiment with is the different contrast modes. What else can we cover here? Now, before I start working with the lighting again, you guys may remember I did turn it into this shading mode here. I want to return to the lighting mode. You can see the scene looks more lit now. Now we can proceed to kind of adjusting the lighting. I'm going to show you a bit of a pro tip here. Once again, I'm going to disable the default lights, and I'm going to turn on this basic crossing lights. Okay, crossing lights are now on. All right, hopefully I'm not going to go over too many heads here, but okay, so we've enabled something called crossing lights, right? That's the style of this particular light in this scene. In this menu here on the bottom right side, this toolbar, you'll notice by default usually populates with this item called Genesis Female. Ignore that. You can click this square here to show all the assets in the scene, and if you scroll up on this list, guess what you'll find? Something called crossing lights. See that? Crossing lights appears as an asset, the light that we're using. So with crossing lights now selected within this little sub menu here on the right, you notice that one of the basic things you can adjust is the positioning of the light. See this transformation here? Moving it back and forth can adjust the look of the light. You see how there's a shadow coming into the back now. Again, this is a little more advanced, so I don't want to overwhelm anybody here, but just putting this out there, you might be scrolling through these different light options and you're like, man, purple haze looks good, but it just needs a little bit of a change. So you'll select purple haze. You'll find purple haze on this list here, and you can manipulate it using these this movement, right? You see how I'm moving the purple haze around now, and now, well, guess what? That light's moving around. It's able to check this cool little shadow clip I have going here. Again, guys, this will be the kind of DIY learning that you're going to do. Just by kind of manipulating the position of the lights, you might make the light look cooler, especially if you combine multiple lights. So I've moved purple haze. Let's say I enable red room now. I'm going to find the red room light on this list. And now I'm going to move red room to complement what I did with purple haze. I hope that makes sense, guys. Just letting you know that, yes, you can select the light source itself and manipulate it in a variety of ways. The basic one being, of course, their position in the scene. All right, so that's it for advanced lighting. Let's continue to this, this staging thing that I didn't get into in the first scene. It comes with two available stages, something called Light Catcher and the Skybox. In order to kind of understand what these two things do, let's fall back to this unlit shading only scene. In this scene, you can see what the Light Catcher is. It's it's this backdrop, right? If I go to Skybox, you'll see that you're now kind of just floating in this field. So if you don't want a floor or any immediate walls around you, this is more of an abyss, is the best way to describe it. And if you click on this black color bar here, you can change the color of, gives you this color wheel, of course, where I can select something like, this hard blue, right? So now instead of being a black abyss, well, it's more of a blue abyss. This is good if you're just kind of floating in space, but generally speaking, you're going to be working with light catcher. Light catcher, again, is this sheet, right? It's kind of like an actual sheet you'd see in the studio as a backdrop. And I bring this to your attention because, check this out. Once again, within this sub right menu, this is where you can kind of tweak the individual assets. If I click here and I scroll up, I'm going to find the light catcher on this list. See, here's the light catcher. The light catcher is now selected. And once again, I can use these transformations here to move. Check, see how this backdrop is working back and forth. Why do I bring this to your attention? The main thing is all right, my mic turned off. I'm back. Let me just double check. Everything moving smoothly? Everybody watching along quietly? Perfect. All right, continuing along. As I was saying, the light catcher. The only reason I bring the light catcher up to your attention, including the ability to kind of move it around and transform it, is because sometimes your clone will move around. Your clone might be jumping higher, whatever the case may be. You may need to bring the floor up to your foot. So in this case, this clone's foot is here. Sometimes you might want the floor to actually meet the foot. Sometimes it might be too high, too low. You get the point. For the shadows and the look to be just right, you might want to move your light catcher up to where you like it on the floor. The other reason you move the light catcher around is, if we return to this scene, you can see that unlike the abyss, the skybox abyss, the lights can now reflect on. Well, it's called a light catcher for a reason, right? It catches the light beaming from the lights. And you can kind of tweak the look, right? If I drag this, I'm going to bring the light catcher in closer. You see that? That looks different than if the light catcher is moved way out. You can see it's almost reflecting no light now. Just bringing this to your attention, guys. Moving the light catcher around can manipulate the look of the background. Hope that all makes sense. That pretty much concludes what you need to know about light catchers in skyboxes in Clone.Tools, with a little bit more advanced lesson on how to move it around and manipulate it. Moving along to advanced render. So we've kind of come a lot further now, guys. We're pretty much ready to render our second image, and this is where we're working with render. And the first time around, we did everything by default. But this time, I'm going to show you that there's something called engine and different modes you can select for working with engine. Generally, the fastest and simplest way to render is going to be using this Eevee renderer. It has a certain look to it, and if you have a less powerful computer, this can be good and likely fine for most people. If you have a more powerful computer, specifically one with a graphics card, this cycles mode can give you a totally different look. It calculates lighting differently, but it's much slower to process, but it is a different look. So I recommend you guys try it. Try rendering in Eevee, see how you like your Eevee pictures. Other times you can try rendering in cycles. The main difference is how it renders the lighting. It calculates lighting completely differently, so it does produce a different look. Another big difference is that Eevee, what you notice that when you're looking at this preview, it pretty much looks how the final image will look. The Eevee is really quick, so it's kind of already rendering it here on the spot. Whereas Cycles, you'll notice when you're working with it, it's kind of washed out and blurry. It's because it's slow and it's not able to, kind of present the final image immediately. So don't be alarmed by kind of how blurry this currently looks. This will sharpen up when we go to render in a moment. This sub option here kind of allows you to enable your GPU for this task. Again, if you have a more powerful computer with a graphics card, enable cycles, enable this GPU compute, and you might find that you would like the look better. Personally, I think this makes cooler looking shots. Let's see here, samples below that. Whether you're working in Eevee or in cycles. There is something called the samples thing, and this is just the quality of it. Usually 64 default is fine, but if you do want to up the quality of the render, you want to make it look the lighting even more crisp, you can try higher values. I generally don't go over 128 or 256. Generally, you guys don't need to turn this to 10,000 or anything. I think multiples, low multiples of 64, I find work fine. In this case, I'm just going to go back to 64. There are these options called realistic skin and transparency. I don't want to get into them now. Personally, the only clones that I find you can use realistic skin on are human clones, and even still, I don't really like the look of realistic skin. And the transparency's more advanced. I don't want to bother with that either. So for purposes of this tutorial, don't worry about realistic skin and don't worry about transparency, at least for the time being. Maybe we'll revisit this at a later point. With that said, this is the render advanced tutorial. What's the advanced part? Well, it's basically teaching you that you can go to cycles and turn on GPU compute in order to render, well, a different style. So let me show you how this one is going to look rendered. I'm going to click render, and unlike Eevee, you'll notice this takes a bit of time. This is going to take a few seconds at least. But this is now the Blender working on putting this whole image together. Once it's complete, I'll be able to save it. With any luck, it'll be done soon. Yep, it's done. All right. The cycles render is complete. Now, in order to save it, I'm going to hit Images, Save As. Once again, we can use the default options here, and I'm just going to create a new render.png. Again, default settings, press Save, and we're done. That would be an advanced render using cycles. And just for purposes of demonstration, I'm going to go back to Eevee. Again, Eevee, let's just call it, this is the simple render. Going to hit render, same deal. This time, notice how much less time it takes to create this image. It's pretty much ready to save immediately when I render an Eevee. I'm going to name this render 20 and leave everything default and press save. So now I've rendered this shot twice. Once using cycles, once using the more lightweight Eevee, and now I'm going to go hop in and show you guys how the two looked side by side, just to kind of give you an idea what all this render business was all about. Let me think here, which folder do we drop it in again? Here we go. All right, so this would be the Eevee pose, and this is the cycles pose. It's lit quite a bit differently, you might notice. Not a huge difference, but it does result in a difference. In this case, I actually like the way the Eevee looks, but I can assure you that if you really spend extra time kind of setting up your lighting, use some of the lighting tricks that I showed you to move the lighting around, combined with the cycles renderer. This thing set to cycles and GPU compute, you can get some really cool looking shots. Because, lighting really makes a pretty big difference. All right, we have covered the more advanced render stuff. That's our second render. There's a couple small things I'm still going to add, guys. And once again, this whole thing is going to be archived to YouTube. If you missed any part of the tutorial, have I gone too fast? Is that a lot to absorb? No big deal. There is that replay that'll be available on demand on YouTube after we wrap. I'll even add timestamps, so you'll kind of be able to quickly seek around and find the topic. But I am going to cover one or two more things. Let me see how we're doing on time. All right, 10:02. I've been going for almost an hour. I think we're doing nicely. Before we go to the question section, let me cover just a couple things I wanted to do. Oh yes, let's add the Animus Egg. Okay, brilliant. This is going to be a very useful skill to have. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to toggle this viewport thing back to shading only so that it's the lighting is not playing a role right now for, again, purposes of this demonstration. Going to zoom out a little bit. So here is how we add extra assets to your scene. Clone.Tools obviously makes it very easy to add just your clone to the scene, but let's add something extra. Go to File on the top left, go to Import, I should say. Go to File, Import, GLB. You'll see there's something called, GLB, GLF. This option right here, GLB, click that. Now we're going to go find our Animus Egg. I neglected to show you guys this earlier, but there is an Animus Egg download in the Discord. I'll show you that in a minute. But in the meantime, let's just assume I have downloaded the Animus Egg already in this folder. Where did I put my Animus Egg? Let's go to 3D. No, I didn't put it in here. I have a folder here that I keep my Animus Egg in. Here it is. All right, so you can download this animusegg.glb from Artifact Creators section of the Discord. I'll show you guys that later. If you can't find it, I'll find a way to attach it to you. But there's something called Animus Egg. Let's do, and then so you just highlight it, hit install, and you can see this Animus Egg suddenly appears in the scene. All right, this is a good start. It's a giant egg, so we must shrink it down. Once again, we're going to return to this menu here in the bottom right. You see that the Animus Egg is currently selected. When you import a new asset into the scene, generally it gets kind of selected by default, which is great. If you've imported your Animus Egg and it's not selected here, once again, you can click this box here, go down this list, and you'll find the Animus Egg. I bring this to your attention because, well, we got to move this egg out of the way. And notice how this egg is huge. Down here, just a little bit further down on the bottom of the transform section is something called scale. It's currently at 1.0. I'm going to turn it down to 0.25 in each dimension. So you can see it's now a quarter of its size. It's set to 0.25 X, Y, and Z, so it's a much smaller egg now. And if I scroll back up to the top of this section here, I can use this transform XYZ to move the egg around. Once again, this is the part where you guys can, you'll learn to toy with this yourself. So once again, I'm going to kind of manipulate the viewport here to kind of get an idea what I'm doing, right? So say I'm going to get in this case, I want to get the egg into a certain position. I kind of need to move my camera into a spot that lets me kind of judge this, the spot of the egg, right? So now I'm just going to go back to this transform window here. And you can see the egg is still quite massive, so I'm going to turn the egg down to 0.1 scale in size. Much better. Going to move the egg, let's just call it right here below the hand of this clone. All right, for the sake of this scene. All right. I'm doing a very crude job of this, guys. This is strictly for demonstration purposes. Of course, this is a pretty goofy looking scene, but you get the point. The egg has now been moved into position. Check that out. Now, if I click the camera here in this toolbar, it'll kind of take me to the shot that we're taking, right? Check that out. So now the egg is in this scene. I'm going to use the egg, going to pull it up just a little further to kind of give it this look. All right, I'm going to manipulate the coordinates. The egg can be perfectly in position. If you go down here, there's even the rotate option. You can rotate the egg a bit. Again, I will allow you guys to explore all of these transform options here on your own in order to kind of manipulate the scene to your desire. All right, check that out. Done. We've imported the egg. We've transformed the egg a little bit. And now you can notice if I go back to this whole render thing, right? I'm now rendering the scene with the cool egg here. This can be used to add any number of 3D assets to your scene. You might notice other people are doing cool scenes with like crazy backgrounds and environments around them, or cars or other objects. There's a whole world of GLB files out there that are easily file, import, GLB. You can pick some of these files, right? And import them in your scene, guys. So very helpful to know how to import things. We did the egg today. The egg is available to Artifact Creator. I think it's available to the wider community. I do encourage you to take some cool shots with your egg. What else do I have to cover? Texture fixes and emissive. All right, 2 small other things, guys. We're almost done. We're pretty much at the 1 hour mark. I do want to mention something, though. First things first, emissive. The best way to demonstrate this will be for me to, I'm just going to turn my render mode back to Eevee to make things run a little smoother. Okay. To demonstrate this, I'm going to go to environment and I'm going to turn off the lights. You notice how this scene is pretty dark? Yep, pitch black. The only thing lit right now are these features on the egg, but namely the glasses on my clone. A lot of clones do have emissive features, and you may want to tweak them. In fact, a lot of the times the emissive can be too strong for the scene, so I'm going to show you how to turn that down. In this case, we're going to turn down the lighting of these VSN glasses. In order to do that, we are going to go over here to the submenu on the bottom right that we've been using, and we're going to search or scroll to, well, vision glasses. You see these? That's the name of the trait. In this case, it's called F Vision Glasses. Depending on your trait, it's going to have a different name in here, but you know, try to locate the correct one. These are called vision glasses, so we're going to select the vision glasses. Now, instead of working with transform, which we've been doing up till now, you notice there's like a lot of these different features here, or buttons and tabs, I guess. And in order to manipulate this, we have to go to, I think it's called the texture tab. Material properties. It's this red circle here. All right, guys, on the bottom left, with your vision glasses selected, I go to the bottom left, I click the material tab, and it takes me to this section here that includes surface. Now, if I scroll down in surface, you're going to find something called emission. Right here, almost toward the bottom, something called emission. It's currently set to 1.0. Check this out. If I turn it down, you notice how the glasses disappeared there? If you use this in very small increments, I'm going to turn this to this 0, 1. In this case, this might not be the best example. These glasses are not fading very nicely. But generally speaking, when you move this... Oh, I think I'm playing with the alpha. That's why. Excuse me here. Let's try manipulating that one more time. Yes, so you can see how this fades when I turn down the emissive feature. Let me see if I can expand this out to make it a little more clear as well. It's currently set to 2.0, so at 1.0, which is default brightness, the glasses are quite bright. But if I turn it down to 0.2, they faded quite a bit. And then when I turn on, you know, some actual lighting, the glasses are less prominent. Once again, I bring this to your attention because there's lots of clones who have almost too strong of a emissive on their features. So if you're making a scene and your clone has got some very bright glasses and you're like, man, why is it so bright? Just go check out the emission, guys. Do check that out. So I hope I did the emission tutorial justice. Again, this is a little more advanced, but I do think it's important for even beginners to be aware that a lot of the traits within this collection have cool emissive properties. They glow like crazy. Sometimes they glow too much. Get familiar with the emissive tab, or that emissive thing there I just showed you, to turn that down. All right, so that would be this submenu here. Let's get, this yellow square here brings you back to this default version of this window if you ever want to do that. What else do I have left to cover, guys? Texture fixes. Okay. Something else that's also important, but in order for me to demonstrate, give me a second. I do have a call coming through, so I'm just going to take a brief moment to respond. All right, I'm back. All right, everything moving smoothly. Yes, everything's live. Good. All right, texture fixes. For me, I think demonstrate this, I'm going to open Blender for the last time today, guys. We've got like a minute left. I promise to wrap this up very shortly. Let's go back to this 3D folder, Blender 3.2, open Blender. And I'm going to demonstrate something really quickly. This is a common error that a lot of people run into. I think it's important to show you how to fix this in this basic tutorial. So I've opened Blender. I pressed N on the keyboard. I'm going to press the Clone.Tools tab. I'm going to go to Open Files. And I'm going to go back here and pick my robot. This is the first clone we started working with today. My clone is now in the scene. And I want to show you guys something. All right. Okay, so in order for me to show you this error, you'll run into this, again, if we go to this render thing, and I showed you how to turn it to cycles and how to have your GPU compute. Oh, go figure. It's not broken this time. All right, something I wanted to show you guys. In this case, is it working? It looks like it's working. What you'll find, and it's often to do with eyebrows, when you set your render mode from EV to cycles, because it calculates the lighting differently, sometimes the textures break. And by that I mean, I thought this example would demonstrate it, because this one usually breaks. The eyebrows will be pink. They'll just be like a hot neon pink. If you load your clone into Clone.Tools, and you find something like the eyebrows being this crazy pink color, completely unexpected, I'll show you how to fix that really quickly. Again, this typically affects eyebrows, so you go to this section here on the bottom right, and you scroll and go to the eye, E for eye. There's something going to be called eyebrows. Here we go. In this case, they're called M-Robo eyelashes. I think that's them. Am I thinking of the right one? Yes. Let's just, for the sake of this example, call them eyelashes. All right. With eyelashes selected here, we scroll down to that material tab I showed you earlier, this red circle. And in here, there's this surface tab that we work with. And what you'll find, again, this is only in cases where these eyebrows happen to load in pink for you. There's something called base here. This will be broken here. So right now, it's currently working. There's a texture loaded into this field here. That's the correct texture. But if this texture is broken, this item will appear pink. And all you have to do to fix that is you'll click open to select a new image. And if you go to your Clone.Tools folder here, you'll see there's something called eyelashes, because again, we're working with eyelashes. We select that. You go to the texture folder. And in this texture folder, you'll find we're working with a male. So we start with M. If you're working with a female, you'd be looking amongst the ones that start with F. But in this case, we're working with a male robot. And we're looking for something, in this case, one that ends in D. So male, eyelashes, D. This is the one you're looking for to fix this problem. If you select D and click load, what would have been pink eyebrows or whatever trait has loaded in accidentally in pink for you will now appear in the right color. This could be applied to editing textures on anything. So if you are more advanced, say you want to, do a different look to your, whatever the trait may be, the hat, you could potentially go into Photoshop, recolor the texture, and then when you go into this setting, you kind of click open and you choose your new texture to recolor that item. Maybe I'm getting too advanced. The main purpose of this part was just to show you guys how to edit the textures. Generally, if they load in pink, you got to do this part. I did save it for last. It's a bit of a headache. Guys, I think I did it all. Install content packs. This really is the last thing. You guys may have noticed when you're on this slick new creators website that we showed you earlier that we downloaded Clone.Tools from. There's other files here. There's something under resources that you may find useful. Let me see here. It's the poses. Let me see here. It's going to be under Clone.Tools. It's going to be under Clone.Tools. Expansion packs. That's right. It's right here under expansion packs. Something called Superhero Animation Pack, the Dance Animation Pack, and so on and so forth. These are all expansion packs. Once you click download and save them, all right, we go here, we right-click and download this zip. We slide it into that 3D folder, just like that. Let's return to Blender. Content packs. You click the button that says load the content pack. And now in that 3D folder, where was that content pack I just downloaded? It's right here. It says Clone.Tools, the Superhero Animation Pack.zip. You click install. You don't notice it yet, but I assure you this content pack has now been loaded. In this case, it was a pose pack. So just to kind of quickly show you, if I go to this pose dropdown that we were working with earlier, under the animate section, you'll find this superhero thing. I don't want to get too deep into expansion packs, but I figure you guys should know at least how to install them. And I trust if you get that far, you'll be able to take the rest away yourself. That's it, man. I think I got them all. Big shout out to everybody watching. Thanks for hanging in there. It's been a nice 1 hour long tutorial. Backed up to YouTube. Feel free to hop on the mic and ask some questions or confirm that you guys are still here and hearing me.
Thank you so much.
I just want to say my bad for being unmuted. You guys probably heard my Frenchie snoring away. That was my fault.
Come on, guys. Any questions and gals? Anything at all? What's on your mind?
The egg. I kind of missed it. Sorry, I was in a meeting. The egg. Where do we get the files for that?
I just saw it here on the site that I was pointing out. So once again, we go to this slicknewcreators.artifact.com. On the very top right, you go to Build Clone.Tools, it was Resources, my mistake. You go to Build/Resources, click Animus. Does it come up here? Oh no, this is just a jacket. Damn, I thought it would have the file here. Okay, I think they keep it here. I'll show you where they keep it. We go into CloneX Creators Chat, and there's a sticky message in here where they dropped it. Where is it, guys? It's not here. All right, rest assured, the team will dispatch the Animus Egg. They have distributed before. I'm sure they'll distribute it again. If you want your copy of the Animus Egg right now, I'll just share it with you guys. I have it in the Google Drive folder. I'm sure you'll find it. To answer your question, you go to File, Import, GLB, and then you find animusegg.glb for the import. Wherever I keep that. See this? animusegg.glb, import, and then this egg will magically appear in the scene. And like I showed you guys earlier, you can use this menu on the bottom right to manipulate the egg as you see fit. Hopefully that quickly recaps that. Any other questions? Oh yeah, maybe I should go into that text chat, and see what kind of comments people left along the way. Give me just a brief moment to catch up. Can you show how to quickly import Clone.Tools into Blender? Yeah, I can quickly recap that. In order to install Clone.Tools to Blender, you go to Edit at the top, Preferences. There's an Add-ons tab here on the left. You go to Add-ons, you click Install, and you should have a Clone.Tools.zip that we downloaded earlier. You click Clone.Tools.zip, hit install, Clone.Tools install. Only thing you have to make sure is that Clone.Tools, once it's installed, is actually checked on this list. If it's not checked, it's not actually running. It's installed but not running, so make sure it's checked. Hopefully that covers that question. Continuing on to the next one. Miss Liquid Bruh, I was reacting to the stream, laughing my head off, thinking Alt had his mic on, and then some. Okay, apologies. Prez, thank you. I'm glad I could help. Super helpful. Cheers, guys. Egg. Where do we get the files for the egg? You know what? If you're in this chat and watching it right now, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just drop egg. .glb in here for you guys. Man, I never remember where I keep this egg. Here it is. Here we go, guys. This is egg.glb available to be right-click saved as right here in the chat. Hopefully Artifact doesn't mind. Shout out to Sky. Shout out to Sesta. Thank you. Yep, shout outs. That's it, guys. Any other questions? Feel free to hop on.
Here's a good one. Shoes, applying different, or like clothing, applying different clothing to your clone. I don't think I have any files with the shoes, but
That's going to be a topic for another day. This was going to be a more basic thing, and that would probably take a video of its own to kind of get into. What I will point out, let's ignore Artifact shoes for now, but some of you guys do use Clone Force and Kreia. You guys have like cool clone assets from those teams. They come with their own 3D files, right? Like Kreia makes a jacket and Clone Force makes hats and assets. You can add those too. If you go to the style tab I showed you guys at the very beginning of this tutorial, see the style section here. If you click on create style library, or hold on, you click this folder here. I haven't actually done this, so bear with me. You click on this folder here, and then I think you can select you'll be able to click and accept, the Kreia whatever. It'll be some kind of clone file, but just from them. If it's shoes, it's pants, it's whatever. Once you select that, it will import it into this list and automatically attach it to your body. I bring this up because I think that Artifact will be releasing the shoe file soon, and it will be a similar process to put the shoes on your feet there, right? So you'll download the shoe file, whatever. You'll click this folder thing. You'll select the shoe on this list. You'll hit OK, and then suddenly the shoes will appear on this list, and then all you'll do is you'll scroll down, and see how you have sandals? You'll remove the sandals, and you'll leave the shoes on. I wish I could show you guys more, but I don't think Artifact has those files kind of ready. But like I mentioned, Clone Force, Kreia, those projects, their 3D files can be, I think, easily installed onto your clone using this style tab here within Clone.Tools. Hopefully that answers that question. Maybe a second video we might get into that topic. Anybody else? All right. Once again, I remind you guys that I was streaming this to YouTube along the way. There's going to be a link below. I'll drop it right now in this sidebar live chat for you guys if you're interested. Do visit and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do stream all the Twitter Spaces and other clone community activities there all the time. But in this case, here we go. Dropping it here. That's the link to today's video. I will add timestamps later today. So if you want to review the stream and kind of go over it a little more slowly at your own pace, watch the replay, you showed up late, whatever it is, there you have it. Hope that covers it. Not much sure how much more we got to add. Are we good? Everybody good? We need any more questions answered? Shout out to the Queen's CloneX. It was a pleasure. Thanks for organizing Rose Jade. Big shouts to Rose Jade. She really made this happen today. Great opportunity. And please, if you're going to take anything away from this, download your Blender, download your files, download your Clone.Tools. Try taking your own cool shots. Heck, you don't even need to take a shot. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's fun just to look at your clone in 3D, right? How often do you get to see, the back of your clone? or all these other hidden features, right? This Clone.Tools in Blender lets you open and play with your clone to your heart's content. Hope that covers it. Much love to you guys. Good, happy Friday. Happy Friday to you all. Thank you for all the shout-outs. I presume the silence means we're good. All right, my dear clones, peace out. I'm gonna shut the stream down, 'cause we good.